It's Mo and Tif.
Hello.
Good afternoon. You've got that evil laugh like you're going to ask me a question that's going to destroy me.
Maybe. I went down a rabbit hole the other day. So I read an article which then led me to another link, which led me to another link, and led me to another
It's the
link.
internet, isn't it?
And I ended up on a forum.
Oh dear.
No. So,
You know, I hate forums.
I do. And
I think that what gets me the most about forums, just to wander off topic of whatever
It's
you're going to
okay.
ask me about here, if
Try
it's
to
about do I
divert
like,
it, aren't you?
if I like forums, no, I don't. The thing I have with forums is everyone has a fake name. You know, it's like Willy Bop 2196. Well, I think you've done a load of shit then. It's like, all right, if you honestly think you've done a load of shit, why aren't you putting your real name up there and standing behind yourself? You know, if I ever join a forum, I will use my real name.
Yeah,
and
me too.
Because I stand behind what I have to say.
Yeah.
I'm not going to hide behind some character of Willy Bob 2196. But anyway, if it's about forums, it's the end of the podcast. So that's my only thoughts on the matter.
Well, to sort of put your mind at rest, I didn't join the forum. I just read a bit.
Oh, go on then.
But it got me to thinking because, well, basically, the article that then led me down to the forum. the forum link at the end was somebody had put a track up and they were asking for people's comments and everything, and it was just I ended up reading all the comments. I didn't listen to the track,
dear.
by the way.
So you don't know if they were right or wrong.
No.
It's like whatever.
Well, this was it. So, and it was really quite interesting because a lot of the comments on the forum were blaming one particular thing. And
I know what this is.
Yeah, you do. They were blaming the mix.
Yes.
Now, they always seem to do this. So it's not the only place I've seen that happen. But you just sort of brought it to the front of my mind. And I wanted to chat to you about it and how you feel that, you're a mix engineer. Do you...
It's all my fault now.
Well, that's it.
I get very offended by it. I mean, the thing is, whenever anybody comments on a mix, 99% of the time it's a load of crap.
Yeah.
What they're saying, because I mean the thing is, a mix, as we've said this before, isn't it? It's about 1% of the final product.
Mm-hmm.
When we do work for clients, which is kind of a bit of fairy dusting, a bit of sound design, things like that, when we send it back to them, the usual response is, I love your mix. And it's like, well, we haven't mixed
done
it yet. I've not even got to the mix. And the thing is, I think it's very easy to blame a mix because it's very easy to sit there and say, well, it's the mix, isn't it? Oh, you got too much low end there. That's the mix. Oh, there's too much. That's the mix. Well, if I was you, I'd go in and I'd cut this and I'd boost that. And it's easy to say that when in actual fact, it's not the mix. It's the production aesthetics that have got problems in it.
Do you think that it's possibly the fact that there's a misunderstanding of terminology or a misuse of terminology there then?
I think it's always been the problem that people tend to say that, one of the things that I was always taught from day one was that, you can't fix it in the mix. And it took me about 5 years to recognise that, you can't fix it in the mix.
Because everybody says you can.
And I kind of understand the aesthetic of it. I mean, one of the things, when I first started this, although dance music was a thing, kind of, it was very, very underground. I mean, it only just started. It only just started to really show its head. So everything in the studios I was working in was all pop-based, rock-based, things like that. And the one thing I learned there is that if I stick a microphone in front of a guitar, when I record that guitar, I have to make sure that at the desk it sounds fantastic. And if it didn't sound fantastic, no matter what I did with that desk, it would not make it sound any better. And this is the thing that when you are producing something, 99.9% of what you do is in the production. The mix is a polish. And this is what's meant by fix it in the mix. If it doesn't sound complete, whole, fantastic at that stage, your mix isn't going to rescue it.
No. So they are completely mixing up.
Well,
the production of the mix.
I think it's a misguided notion. Whenever somebody comments on a mix, it's usually a misguided notion because they don't know any better. It's kind of like, it's not your mix, mate. It's actually your production that is lacking. It's like, say you asked me to bake a cake. And you said, right, here's my ingredients, and rather than sugar, you give me salt. And I turn to you and go, well, you give me salt here. No, I know what I'm doing. I'm the artist. Mix these ingredients together for me. Here you go. And, I take those, I mix it, I bake the cake, you eat it and go, that tastes like shit. It's not my fault. It's your fucking ingredients. I told you that this shouldn't be salt, it should be sugar. And it's the same sort of thing. If your production isn't there, a lot of people, because they can't listen with such detail and go, do you know what your problem is there? You've layered 26 sub-basses. That's why the mix is going at the low end. Because you mixed all these sub-basses together. The rest I put a slight cut at the low end to get rid of some of that. Yeah. And it's like, no, you're missing the point. Your production is not up to scale. I
was going to say that. When I read it, I did just smile at a lot of the comments and that. And I did personally feel, and this is why I wanted to talk to you about it, because that was my way of thinking, was the fact that these people are commenting on it, and if that was my track, I wouldn't want to listen to them, because to be honest with you, if they can only say, well, it's the mix, that shows their level of knowledge and their ability of listening, because they're not able to properly identify what's wrong with it. They're just making a blasé, comment.
It's very easy to blame a mix. It's very easy to say, oh, your mix is wrong there, mate. But part of the problem as well is people post up and they kind of go, judge my mix. And it's like, you don't your mix judging, you need your production judging them, because it's terrible. This is why your mix sounds so bad. I'm not saying that a mix isn't important. It is. We win awards for mixing.
I was going to say, mix engineers get awards, and they can often, because if you have another person do it and it is a different, mix engineer and not yourself, they'll bring out different things in your track that you didn't know were there even.
We've done mixes in the past, haven't we? We've mixed things and people have said, I don't like that in there. It's like, well, why did you put it in then?
Yeah. And then we've had people who have gone, oh, I didn't know that instrument was there. And, I like that. The way you brought that forward, or the way you've done that.
But then it comes to a good mix will make bad production sound even worse. Yes. A good mix.
Yeah, it does.
But a good mix will make good production sound even better. So, this is the thing. And I suppose it's very complicated. I see it a lot, so I don't go on a lot of forums, but I like you, I follow a few links here and there, and you're like, what the fuck?
Why did I lose 20 minutes then?
Judge my mix. And it's like, it's not your mix. The mix isn't the problem. The problem is you're starting with shit. Yeah. And this is the thing. If you have shit, you will never be able to, you'll be able to polish it, but it'll never sound good.
No.
And this is what people miss. And as I say, it comes to, again, fix it in the mix. And I had the wrong impression of this. Even though I learned from day one you can't fix it in a mix, I had the complete wrong impression of it. And it took me about 5 years to realise I understand what they mean now. That when you have finished your production, it should sound like it's mixed. And a mix adds that extra special spice on the top.
Yeah.
If your production does not sound like a complete record and you think, well, when I mix it, it'll sound even better, that's the wrong approach. And it's an ill-educated, lazy view of, your mix, mate. Your mix needs a bit of work.
Yeah, you see, I always view it a little bit like you mentioned about the cake. It would be like trying to put icing on top of your cake and it's full of salt.
Yeah, exactly. This is it.
Your icing might be very nice and your mix engineer might be very gifted, but if you've given him a salty cake...
you give me salt instead of sugar, it's going to taste like shit. And the thing is, they come back there, this tastes like shit. It's like, well, it will do. You gave me salt instead of sugar, what the fuck do you want me to do with it? But it is very much a case of, like we always say, a mix will bring out the weak parts. And this is one of the things I find when people send you an arrangement, or at least, the individual stems to mix. You get sent them and you listen to it, and this is one of the main things that annoys me. There are there's like 60 channels. Now, when I produce a track, I may have 60 channels, but it'll be like, say, it'll be 10 layers of a lead,
Yeah.
5 layers of a bass. It'll be all the drum channels,
Yeah.
and then it'll be effects.
Yeah.
When typically you get somebody who will say is a bit more inexperienced at this, and they send you something to mix, you find it's like 60 channels of different instruments. One's going blip, 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 the other's going blop, 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 another one's going another one's going wah, 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 and you're like, what the fuck? How the fuck am I going to mix all this together to make any sense? They don't understand that. I mean, you have the best way of describing this when you're at this music, don't you?
Go on. I'll let you say it. I can't stop laughing at the blips and blops.
It is. You know, one of the things you got to watch out for when you're doing production is transient information.
Yeah.
We are drawn to transients because that initial attack is part of our survival mechanism. You know, in those first 10 to 20 milliseconds, we can tell if it's an angry sounding bear or a snake or something that's going to kill us. So we are designed to react very fast to transients. So when you do like an harp, and then you do, you know, going, and then you do a piano going, and then you got a kick going, dum, 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 and then you got hi-hats going, and then you put something else in going, whoa, whoa, whoa. You know, it's like, what the fuck am I supposed to listen to? It doesn't make any sense. So what you have to do when you're creating a piece of music, I know I'm wandering off topic here, but when you're creating a piece of music, you need to, like you say, you need to think of a band.
Yeah.
You have a drummer, you have a guitarist, you have a bassist, you have a keyboardist, and you have a vocalist. That's 5 fucking instruments.
Yeah.
You
Keep
don't,
it to that.
Yeah, you don't need more than 5 fucking instruments playing at the same time.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Yes, have multiple layers when you're doing synthesis, you know, like maybe 5 or 6 layers of a bass. But you don't want a bass line going ba 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 ba, and a drum going thud thud thud, and then a piano going da 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 da, and then an harp going and then something else going whoop 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 whoop, and then something else going da da da. And you're like, what the fuck am I supposed to listen to?
I think as well, people forget as well that actually sound goes in your ear, by the way, folks. It does have to travel to your brain.
I know. And your brain's going to go, what the fuck is going on here? You need to treat... I mean, I know I'm switching into production here, but this is the biggest problem.
Yeah.
It's not the mix, it's your production. And we need... You need to make sure that you guide a listener through the song. Listen to this. Now listen to this. Now listen to this. Now listen to this. You don't suddenly hit them with 7,000 instruments all going off in their own direction and expect them to make any sense out of it. And then when you mix it, apart from, I mean, you've seen it, it's incredibly difficult to mix, but you mix it, send it back, and they go, well, there's a lot going on in there. So you fucking wrote it.
It's what makes me giggle is to go, you've put an extra instrument in.
That before, yeah. Where did that come from? I didn't have that before. I'm a mix engineer. I don't arbitrarily fucking add instruments to your mix, mate. You put this in, I've just brought it out. And it is one of the things, if you don't want to hear it, don't fucking put it in.
No.
Just leave it out.
I think what sometimes happens is they'll put stuff in to hide stuff they don't really like.
This is the biggest problem with production is the fact that they put something in and they think, oh, it's not very interesting, that, so I'll put another rhythm in or another melody. That's not very interesting, so I'll put another melody in. And you should really be looking at saying, this melody's not interesting. What's making it uninteresting? Is it the melody? Is it the sound design? I mean, I always say that you should write a melody in a piano because we all know what a piano sounds like. If it sounds good in a piano, it will likely sound good in anything. Yeah. Whereas, you know, there's a confusion between your musicality and your sound design. They have to work in unison with one another. They have to work together to create a complete sound. And if that's not interesting on its own, I always say you should solo an instrument, listen to it. And if you can't listen to it and think, oh, it sounds a bit shit, a bit boring, that I've got to put something else in, the instrument's wrong. You need to rewrite it. Yeah. And this is the problem. People go, oh, it's your mix, mate. I'd do this, I'd do that. Because that's the only thing they can comment on. They don't have the in-depth knowledge to say, actually, that's your production. Forget the mix. Why don't you try presenting it to us without a mix and let's have a listen? Because if you present something without a mix, it should still sound really fucking good. It should still sound like a finished record. It's just... well, I think the bass is a little bit loud.
It could just be your volumes and things like that. That you, when you go into your mix, isn't it? That's what you're looking at altering and things. It's not. You're not rewriting the track.
Exactly, but it's much easier, as we say, for people to just go, "Oh, it's your mix, mate. Well, I'd put a cut here and I'd put a boost there and I'd do this and and it's like, no, that's not going to fucking save it. It's just going to sound fucking worse."
No, thank you. I enjoyed chatting to you about that. Really.
You just dragged me into me rant about mixing. Yeah, I am tired of people blaming mixes and everyone thinking it's all down to the mix. Yeah, in the same breath, everyone says, "Oh, you can't fix it in the mix." But then they all comment about a fucking mix afterwards rather than going, no, your production's shit, your idea's shit. I mean, a great track starts with a great idea, and the problem is that a lot of people don't have great ideas.
Thank you. Thank you for joining my journey down my rabbit hole.
Oh, you're welcome. That was an easy one. It wasn't a complex question.
Told you. So, thank you very much.
It's Mo and Tif.